Hey guys, and welcome back to the Ghost Biker Garage. Hope you all have been having a great week. I know we've been busy here, just getting back into town. Actually, I've been doing a fair amount of traveling. Was up in Virginia this past weekend. I know some of you guys followed my live streams that I had. I was up at the beautiful and never disappointing St. Albans Sanatorium, and that was actually my first time there, and got to meet a lot of great investigators. We were supposed to have EnigmaCon this past weekend, but due to some regulations with COVID and that sort of thing, that was canceled. But they still had us investigators up there. We had a great weekend filled with lots of investigations, live streams, dinner at the sanatorium. It was a blast. So I would recommend for anybody, if you get the opportunity, to check out the amazing St. Albans Sanatorium. I definitely recommend that. You can go back and watch my live streams either on the Ghost Biker Explorations Facebook page or on the Ghost Biker Explorations YouTube channel. So we're not going to waste too much time getting into tonight's guest because we've got some really cool things to talk about. He is a paranormal documentarian, a filmmaker, producer, author, and also fellow artist. If you've not seen his work on his page, you need to definitely check that out as well. I always like following other artists, but he is also an Oddities collector and the owner of the archive of the Afterlife Paranormal Museum. And this place is amazing. I'm going to pull my friend Steve Hummel on and let him tell us all about it. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing good. Just want to say hello to a few people in the live stream. We've got Chris Sumner, Peppy Purple Eyes, Janet Alms, David Flowers, Nancy Weems, Eric Murphy. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys feel free to ask any questions here in the chat room. We're going to pull them up on the screen and we'll get to those. If I don't see your question immediately, if we're talking about something, don't worry, we'll definitely get to it because I know you guys are going to have some questions about some of the stuff that Steve has. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to you and let you kind of tell us a little bit about how you got started with paranormal investigating and how you got into collecting oddities and opening the archive of the Afterlife.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a long story.
Well, we've got all the time we need.
Good. Well, it started off, of course, I think a lot of it's like everybody else. You've had certain experiences when you're at a younger age, when you're a kid and whatnot, but we'll kind of not dabble with that too much. Just kind of fast forward a little bit to when I started working the haunted house at the former West Virginia State Penitentiary here in Moundsville. And then over a little bit of time, I was able to actually start doing historical tours there, and a little bit of maintenance here and there as well. And along with that, you start meeting like-minded people with the same questions, the same similar experiences and stuff like that. So that's what pretty much got me into the investigating part, and that is a big thanks to Polly Gear. She's the mother of one of my best friends, Dave Gear, and she had Mountaineer Paranormal. So that was where I started investigating with them, and then along with that, I met my other best friend Ryan, eventually my best friend Jason, and we all investigated through Mountaineer Paranormal. Then eventually we started our own little offshoot from that called Paranormal Quest, and we wanted to start doing YouTube videos. And it's been a long time. I want to say probably 2012, I think we kind of started doing the YouTube channel. And just yesterday, we finally hit a milestone for us. We've been shooting for it at 75,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And we've been really, been a kind of a here and there a love-hate relationship, but it comes down to a passion of, really enjoying what we do and sharing our experiences with people. So it's kind of a very cut down version of how I got to be into the paranormal field, investigating, researching, and stuff like that. Now, right around 2011, I think it was October, is when I technically started my museum. But we'd already kind of been investigating together through Mountaineer Paranormal, and then I had a couple businesses myself at that time. I had a gym, fitness center, and I had a diner. and the diner had an empty poker room, which I didn't want to do poker machines. They're just not my thing. And it's just too much drama with them. And wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. Now, at one point, Dave Ryan and I did a little trip to Gettysburg. And there was a small paranormal spiritualist type of museum there, a little small place, really, really nice, though. I think it was called the International Museum of Spiritual Investigations. A very long title. And on the way back, I was thinking to myself, I really enjoyed the museum, and I started thinking of that empty room I had, and I knew that I'd already been investigating, had an interest, a passion for the paranormal, and I've always liked to collect things. So I decided I would budget myself $50. And with that, I started doing Q&A with people on their opinion on the paranormal. I would ask them, what experiences they had. And what I would do is I would type it out, frame it, and I started putting it along the walls in the poker room. And then once I got enough stories to share, I would tell my people coming into the diner while they're waiting for their meals, it says, hey, we have a little bit of a paranormal ghost story room over there. If you want, you can go read while you're waiting for your meal. So that's kind of how it got started, and kind of took off on me. Pretty soon I filled that room up, and then the diner just kind of wasn't worth the time invested. So the museum took over the diner building. I still had my gym. And then eventually the gym building and the diner building got to be too much of a financial burden for myself and my grandfather. And right about that time is when I moved it to the Sanford Community Center. Mm-hmm. So I started with just enough to fill up one classroom. And within 5 years, I filled up 2 classrooms. And then we had our issue with the city. And everyone kind of got ousted out of the building. And luckily, I was traipsing around on Facebook Marketplace and had seen this house that was available in Cameron. Wasn't my first choice, but everything that needed to happen worked out. Everything just kind of worked out. I'm like, I did a lot of praying about it. I'm thinking, this is going to be an uphill fight again, trying to get a tourist stop started in a town that doesn't have anything really. But then again, I started looking at it, well, it's kind of an open palette, which means I can kind of do my own thing and not really have to answer to anybody. And it's starting off pretty good. We've had probably since April 1st, we're only open on Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays 1 to 7. We probably getting close to about 60 people so far.
Oh, very nice.
And that's nice. After we had an issue with Google because the city had just changed the addresses around too. So we were getting phone calls. People say, hey, where you at? And I would have to stand outside and say, come down this way because the address has changed. So it was, if it's not one thing, it was another with this place. But so far, things are starting to smooth out a little bit and go pretty decent for it.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. First of all, if people haven't checked out Paranormal Quest, they need to definitely go check out the YouTube channel and subscribe to that and check out the videos because you guys put out some amazing videos. The evidence is great. And then just the videography and cinematography behind that is wonderful. You guys do an amazing job. And so I definitely encourage people to go and check those out. And you've gone to some great places as well. And then as far as the archive, I've obviously not been to the new building, but I've been to the old location twice, and I could spend a lot of time in there. I mean, you have quite the collection.
Thank you. It continues to grow. I'm pretty aggressive with collecting. I always kind of have been, and I think that kind of trickles down from playing sports a lot, so it gives me something to do. But it's really important, I feel, if anyone out there is collecting, haunted items, that's great. I may not end up with it, but as long as it's being preserved and where people can learn from it, because newsflash, we're not going to live forever. So someone's going to have to pick up the torch after we're done with it. And hopefully we're going to leave them with enough information, enough research that they'll be able to pick it up and go with it and take it even farther. That's what it's all about. So,
Absolutely.
and I do sit back and kind of worry about, if something happens to me, whether sooner or later, what's going to happen to the collection and everything. So,
So as far as your collection, how do you acquire some of those items? Are they ones that maybe somebody who has had an issue with a haunted item has reached out to you, or is it something that you've been interested in and you just kind of, people will go antiquing, that sort of thing. You go looking for those type items. How do you acquire some of your items?
I see you, Chris Sumner. I'll take it on the comments.
And she will.
I bet she would. There's a lot of avenues to that. I do have people contact me. I've had people, even when I wasn't there, I had a volunteer at the museum. They'd show up. Yeah, this creeps me out. I don't want it, and they would just turn around and leave. Which sometimes with that, you don't always get the story with it. Just happy to get rid of it. But there's a lot of people that me, asked me to take it. There's me being an empath. I'm a believer in spiritual discernment. I come from a Christian standpoint. That's why I like more so helping people rather than, hey, I have this in my museum and bragging about it. That's not what it's about. And so being in the paranormal for so long and coming from a spiritual opinion, Christian stand, you can pick up on a little bit more so than some people because, that's, I hate to say I'm trying to earn a living doing this, but I do it an hour, I put enough hours, which I make with my artwork as my income. And so you just learn to resonate with certain items, certain energy stuff. So there's that avenue, and the other one is I also what item in a building get the most use. Doorknobs, different things like that. Of course, I have a couple embalming tables and different things like that. What items would have potentially the highest chance of having the most energy onto it, and I tend to try to go look at those first.
Gotcha.
So there's the spiritual aspect of it, of resonating with the energy, which is very important, which I enjoy the most because it's more of an intimate experience that way. And there's also trying to reason up here, what would most likely have the most energy attached to it. And then also, of course, people contacting me and bringing stuff in as well, or me going and actually go get that. Or get an item off of somebody. So.
Gotcha. So you've had in the past, I know that people could investigate the archive. Is that a possibility or an option with the new location?
Yeah, absolutely. I hate, a lot of people have gotten on me and other people who do ask admission for certain things, and I think a lot of them don't realize it takes money to pay for things and to pay for electricity, water, a mortgage, and insurance and different things like that. So I do. I've wrestled around a lot with what prices to ask, especially for the private nights. Right now, I'm sticking with my special of $250, and that's from 9 p.m. till 4 a.m. And if people show up early, that's fine, because some people do, like you and I, our projects we shoot B-roll, we shoot day shots and stuff. And being a YouTuber that way, I fully understand that. So, it's very flexible. Very flexible with that.
And we'll put the information, all the information as far as how people can reach out to you, how they can visit the archive. We'll go back and put that in the post.
Cool.
And then when this re-airs on YouTube, we'll also go and add all of that in any information, any projects you're working on. Because again, you're sharing this collection. It takes time to put this together, and you're sharing this with everyone and sharing the stories and stuff behind it. So I think it's just awesome that you've put this together and opened up a location to be able to share that with all of us. So And everyone over here, I don't know if you saw the comment that I put up from Janet about admission, nothing wrong with that, and about it being very reasonable. So
it took me like 6 years to come up from $3 to $5. But for the day tour now with the new place, I had to go up a little bit more because I have a higher overhead. But I'm doing what I can to stay cheap, people.
Now, is the location that you're in now? I know you were in the Sanford Center, and that was an actual haunted location. Is the location you're in now by chance haunted?
Yeah, actually, we've had some pretty interesting experience with it in just a short amount of time. I did a walkthrough of the place with the, kind of now still the property owner. We're going to do a land contract here shortly. And walking through it, it felt kind of peaceful, kind of comfortable, and just I let him do the talk, and I'm just kind of getting a feel for the place. So we got to one room at the end of the hall on the second floor, and I'm like, and instantaneously, I felt, this is the room I'm going to put my negative items in. That was just the first thing that came to mind. Yeah, I walked in, I'm like, it kind of went like that too. So it was, and that's something I've always wanted to do. I want to be able to put my more malevolent items in a room that's separate from everything else. So some people don't want to go close to it, and they don't have to go close to it. So I've got about 10 rooms.
Oh, wow.
And
wow, yeah.
I was surprised that other than some wall space, I do have room to maneuver more stuff in easily, but it seems like it's getting full already. I have a problem.
It's not a bad problem to have.
No.
Just keep expanding, and adding on. I know when I was there, I believe the first time I came was in October of 2017, and that was when I met you for the first time. I'd been over investigating the Belair house, and came
I love the Belair house, Kristen. If you're watching, you're awesome.
Yes, I want to get her on here as well. I mean, that's one location that I just can't explain the activity that I get there. And it's so much fun. And Kristen is just such a wonderful person. But I'd investigated there, and it was my first time in the area, and had brought my friend Tiffany with me.
All right.
And I know we spent some time in there, and it was really interesting because when we left, I think we spent maybe 2 hours in there. And we were driving back from West Virginia to Tennessee, which was quite a long drive, and going to stop in Point. Yeah, we even stopped at Point Pleasant, and I think we got back about 3:00 that morning. And, we had the strangest feeling when we left. I don't know if I've told you about this, but after we left the museum, we went and ate at the diner that you had recommended. And I just remember we were just kind of quiet, kind of melancholy feeling. And we both couldn't really figure it out. Thought maybe it was because the trip was ending and we had the long drive ahead of us. But we both determined, I remember the first question she asked me, she was like, "Did you touch anything in there?" And we thought maybe it had come from we were picking up on something. But it was the strangest feeling. I mean, we just didn't have anything to really say to each other, and just sat there through dinner. And then finally it was like, have you felt kind of weird since we left?
It'll do that. It'll, there's some days where I feel okay and leave okay. And there's some days I can't get out of there quick enough.
Well, you definitely have the collection for it, and we couldn't put our finger on it. I know there were a couple items that I was kind of drawn to when I was there, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But of course, I came back and did your Haunted Relic Expo in 2019, and at that time you had expanded rooms and had even more.
Expanded. Yeah, yes. I think I just started on the second one. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd got a couple new pieces, I think, at that point. And so we do have, of course, again, it's in a different location, but we do have a video of that if anyone wants to go back and watch the live feed on that and see some of the different items. But I'm going to actually see if I can share my screen here, and we're going to talk about some of the different items that's there. So if y'all will just bear with me just a second, I'm going to try to share. Let's see here. We'll see if we can get this to work. Okay.
Oh, there's some old pictures.
Yeah, that was when it was in the Sanford Center.
Yeah.
So one item that like I said, I've always been fascinated with is this one right here.
Oh, the foot book.
The foot book. I don't know why. Before I came, I'd looked at some different things and some of the different pictures you had. And that was one that kind of stood out to me. Can you tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah. Originally, that was donated by a friend of mine, Shane Berge. He actually lives in Texas now. He was also a paranormal investigator. And the lady who contacted him said she had just odd stuff going on at her house, footsteps, the sounds of kids laughing and stuff. And basically, he said, after asking her, is there anything new been introduced to the house? He says, well, I bought some items for my grandkids at a yard sale. So he started going through the different items, and they came to the foot book. And along with his research, they kind of pinpointed that the activity came or was somehow initiated by the book. So he removed the book, and apparently there was no issue after that, so he kept the book. And then after he and I started talking and got to be friends, he was moving to Texas. He just had a little newborn, and he wanted me to have the book. So the research he conducted on and about that book is that it potentially came from a quadruple homicide. And there's actually what I believe, some people believe, that there are old, like, fainted bloodstains on the cover. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, in that quadruple homicide, there was a 2-year-old involved, and her name was Nasira. And it was a Middle Eastern country family. They were from the area up here over in Ohio, and it was just a big, horrible, a very sad event. So that's kind of like a little condensed history of the book. Now another investigator came in. His name's Kenny, and we found out that there was a name inside the book, and it didn't have anything to do with the family who were murdered, but it was from the family who lived next door. And he kind of believes a certain way. I believe a different way, that there's a potential that the book from that boy's family was given to the family next door, or somehow purchased by the family next door. And that's how I feel it was introduced to the house.
Gotcha.
So, but there's a lot of open areas for debate on that. But the people, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
But a lot of people have gotten a lot of responses, if you will, of what they believe to be a child from that book.
Gotcha. And I think kind of what drew me to this one is just the differences between something that seems so benign and friendly and everything, a children's book that's really beloved, to seeing what looks. I mean, it looks like bloodstains or faded fingerprints on there, and
I've had a friend of mine who's the fire chief for the city of Moundsville, a good friend of mine, and he said it pretty much looks like bloodstains on it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm nothing against anyone else, but if a fire chief with many years of experience says that looks like dried blood, I'm going to go with his.
And that, I think that's great that you've called in other people to look at the different items, not just investigators assuming, but also people who would have a knowledge. That's great to know. And I just saw one item that was mentioned. I'm going to see if I can find it here. Yeah, by Eric Murphy. He just commented and said, just the feeling I get off seeing the execution cap is extremely intense.
Yeah, that's another one that my friend Kenny, he's a great guy. He's one of the few skeptics you can talk to that's a reasonable conversation. You know what I mean? You don't have to always agree, but he's straightforward and very very respectable in my opinion. With the execution cap, me working at the prison, knowing what I was told about the chair and everything else, how it was stored, and also knowing that the chair was built inside the facility. It was not ordered, and sent in by another company. That's why I'm 99% positive in my mind that that is the actual cap to the West Virginia State Penitentiary's electric chair, because that cap also would have been made inside the facility. It would not have been ordered and brought in for that. So when you're looking at the cap there, you see the two cross beams. They're welded very crudely. They're solid, but they're welded very crudely. And also the little where the leather loops are at, there's actually little bolts there that are actually copper. Most people faking something like this would not think to make them copper, because copper is highly conductive, which would help the current pass through the cap and into the brain and throughout the rest of the body and out the second electrode much more efficiently. So that was used for there's 9 pictures there. You can't see some of them the way that I had it displayed there, but those 9 individuals were executed wearing that cap.
Wow. How many people have they had executed at West Virginia?
94, 85 in the gallows, 9 in the chair. Now, starting in the late 1790s up until 1898, executions in the state of West Virginia, Virginia, then eventually West Virginia, were done by county jurisdiction. And then the last public execution done by county was John Morgan, and it was a big mess. They had like 5,000 people straight up. They were all partying, and it was more of a spectacle than an actual, event to witness where justice is being served. So 1899 is when the state took over jurisdiction doing the executions inside the facility. So 94 were done within the state of West Virginia until we lost our death penalty in 1965.
Okay. Do you have a lot of items from the prison there in?
I've got a few more. Yeah, I've got maybe.
I'm gonna see if I've got.
There might be. Yeah, you might have some of his pictures there.
Yeah, here we go. See.
Maybe not.
I thought I might have, but like I said, I could have spent a ton of time in there.
Well, I do have about 5 or 6 shanks from the facility. I do have an infirmary bed that I was given by my former boss. I have the door that came from the admin building where the fingerprinting and processing was done. I have that big grid door. Trying to think. I have a weapon that was made out of a chain that my friend Matt found down one of the halfway down the sewer drain in the basement. We snoop around. We used to snoop around a good bit looking for stuff. I'm trying to think here. I'm forgetting something. I have a toolbox / footlocker that I'm told belonged to an inmate by the name of Roland Vance. This one girl said she bought it at a yard sale from an old man in Wheeling who said he was a guard at the prison, and said that used to be Roland Vance's footlocker / toolbox. And Roland Vance was stabbed 12 to 14 times in North Hall and died. So I do have that there as well. And I have, for the historical value of it, I have a drawing done by inmate Danny Spider Lehman. He was president of the Avenger Motorcycle Gang. And his artwork, you've been through the prison, all the paintings up in the infirmary, those are all his.
Okay, so wow.
The drawing I have, to my knowledge, is the only piece of artwork of his that's not on the prison walls. So I'll hold on to that for a long time.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a great piece. I know that this item right here is one that I've seen you highlight on several occasions. Are a lot of people drawn to this particular one, or what's the story behind it?
The story behind Annie and I go way back. I knew about her picture before I had the museum, and up at this antique place in Wheeling, it's called Antiques in the Market. There's like multiple vendors, and I'd always go up there when I was buying World War II items. I've always collected World War II military stuff, but mainly World War II, and I'd always had to pass this one vendor who had her picture to get back there toward the military vendor, and I would always find myself staring at her picture, whether it was 10 seconds or a minute, and I never really knew why. And then once I opened the museum up, the first thing I thought of is I have to have that picture because I want to see if other people, vibe with it as well. So I went to go get it at one particular time, and then I went to where the vendor was at that had her, and I realized, the entire vendor is gone. Vacated, gone. Her picture was nowhere to be found. So it's that point in time in life you realize you want something you can't have. So, and I don't like that. I don't like that feeling. And so a few visits later, I was going to probably pay off, put on layaway a World War II item. Again, I have a problem. And I'm walking past this area, and I look back where the vendor used to be. It's still empty, except as I get to where I can see the back wall, God is my witness, that picture was on the floor leaning against the wall.
Wow.
Nothing else around it. And I'm like, well, shoot. Looks like I'm buying this today. And that's when I got December. No, that's a different date. That's the day I bought her picture, and multiple times, multiple individuals and different teams have made communication with Annie, either with proximity meters, EVP, you name it. She's the type, and I've told her, I tell all the items, all the entities that are in the museum, said, listen, there's some people coming in tonight. You can communicate if you want to. If you don't, you don't have to, because it's the one thing I think that separates the archive, and you can ask the volunteers. We don't treat them like sideshow freaks.
Right.
It's not what it's about. They were, well, I can't say they all were human like we are at one time, that was from some of the stuff I have, but there's a level of respect. And
yes.
I think that's the way it needs to be. And if it's not like that, then that person's doing it for the wrong reason. That's just my opinion.
That's right. And you can definitely tell that you have the respect because, you feel it when you walk in. I've seen it over the years that I've known you. I've known you for a little while now. So Steve is definitely respectful with all the items that he has. We actually have a question here from Brian Baum from Bearded Paranormal. He asks if there's going to be any ParaCons at the museum this year.
I'm still trying to figure out how that's going to happen. There's not a lot of room there. It's not a very big town. However, there's a VFW that has a rental hall, and there's another rental hall that's between two churches, and I don't know how that would go either. It's not out of the question. However, my buddies Dave, Ryan, Jason, and we have one going on at the former West Virginia State Penitentiary this year. And me being a complete airhead, I forget the date.
We can definitely find that and post that with it. I've seen some of the postings about it. Is it July?
Yes, I'm pretty sure. And definitely, if not, check out wvpentours.com. They should have the information on the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm an airhead. It is what it is.
Put you on the spot whenever we ask these questions. And I just wanted to pull this up. I know, you had mentioned about your different war relics. You have quite a few of those in there as well.
I have a lot more now. Those two right there, those two are German helmets. Those are from Lithuania, right out of the trenches. And the two holes you see on the one on the right, that's an entrance and exit hole from a round. The crack on top of the other one is from shrapnel. And that little, on the far left, there's that little black burnt looking stick there.
Mhm.
Easiest name for that is to call it as a potato smasher. That
Mm.
would be the German handheld grenade. And up top of it, in that glass jar, that silver item, that
Mhm.
is a German World War II canteen that was hit with shrapnel.
Wow.
Now I have my newest World War II piece. It came from one of our last investigations. We were up in New England about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and we were able to investigate the Conjuring House in Rhode Island.
Very cool.
Amazing location, definitely totally completely geeked out, and even more so geeked because I love military stuff. 2 nights that we investigated the USS Salem in Quincy,
Oh, how
Massachusetts,
cool.
and yeah, I was just like, I see a big boat and I totally just completely melt. It's pretty sad. Uh, but our tour guide and historian, Dawn, was nice enough to donate one of a mint condition, pretty much, World War II medic helmet from the USS Salem to the museum.
Oh, very
And
nice.
I'm doing a readout for it. I just recently purchased a 1920 something postcard with a USS Salem on it, and I'll have that displayed with it as well.
Well, you always display your pieces so nice. As far as trying to put the information that you have or stories or just displaying them. I mean, you do a very nice job with your display work.
I appreciate it. The cheapest route, the better.
Well, and you being creative and a designer and stuff, I'm sure that helps.
It does. I was trying to find stuff for this helmet you were showing. Those are actually fish tanks. I just turned sideways so that way kids couldn't cut their fingers on them. I put
Do
the
you
opening toward the back.
Well, do you, speaking of that with the fish tanks and everything, different items that you said were negative, do you display those in a different way? I mean, do you make sure that they're covered where people can't touch, or do you encourage touching, or do you display them different?
I just leave them out. I leave it up to the person. I'd rather people not touch the items, and that's mainly because we all have oil on our fingers and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And for me, spiritual protection comes down to knowing who has your back. And for me,
That's right.
it's 100% scripture, and that's
Mhm.
not by pressing that on anybody. I'm just saying that's me.
Mhm.
So if I let the one thing that I was taught in school, for spiritual warfare and demonology,
Mhm.
if you entertain the fact that an item or a person or anything has control over your mental and spiritual well-being, then you might as well be saying that's stronger than God, and
Mhm.
that would make it an idol. And for me, that's just there's no replacing what I got going for me. So I'm
Mhm.
not I don't worry about it. I
Mhm.
really don't. So, and
Well,
I'm not trying to be cocky. I'm just
no,
you know
no. I mean, it's that's your belief system, and that's what works. And speaking of scripture,
ah
I wanted to mention the 666 Bible. See what I did there?
I see what you did there. Yeah.
This was another one that was kind of interesting to me. Just I guess again the contrast of what it is. Can you tell us the story behind this?
Yeah, it's funny because just last week Ryan was working a night tour, and the guy who donated this was on the night tour at the prison.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Basically, the guy said he and a friend. I'm assuming they went to Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia, because he said they were urbexing in a rundown building that was called the Morris Memorial School for Crippled Children, which would have been down in that area.
Mhm.
And from what he was describing, sounded a lot like that building.
Okay.
And he said he and his buddy were going through the hallways. He looked through one of the windows in the door, and he saw this Bible laying in the middle of the floor. And he went into the room and noticed there was an angel figurine sitting on top of it. His friend took the angel figurine. He took the Bible. And then they went back to college, and eventually spring break or whatever happened, then he came home. He actually lives in Glendale, just up the river from where I live here in Moundsville.
Mhm.
But he said once he got home and he took the Bible, which was open to page 666, that's why it's a
Wow.
666 Bible. Once he from the moment he took it out of his urbexing bag and put it on the fireplace mantle in his house, within 3 days, so remember the number 3, 3 days, the family cat died, the dog got sick, and his mom got real sick. Throughout the 3 days, he would hear his name whispered throughout the house. On the 3rd day, in the evening, he let his dog out to go do his business in the backyard. Now, there was a corner of the yard where he couldn't see from the back porch, and that's where the dog ran to. And he could hear the dog barking, growling, and carrying on, so he went out to see what was wrong. As he went out towards the corner, the dog ran past him, yelping and screaming or whatever, and went back into the house. So he went around the corner to look, and then around the corner next to the small ornamental tree in the yard, he saw 3 shadow figures standing in his yard. So he went back in the house, locked the door behind him, went through the house and to the bay window to overlook that area. There was no one in the yard, no footprints in the grass. He said there was dew on the grass. You could see if anyone was there. Nothing. It was a fenced-in yard, too. And then he got a hold of me the next day and brought me the Bible and donated it. So the reason I said the number 3,
Yep.
Three family members, 3 days, 3 shadow figures. And normally most cases involving the demonic, 3 is the mocking of the Trinity, which is pretty much widely known now, and widely accepted by many researchers. So that's probably one of the very few items that I've personally held that I could feel turning my stomach.
Wow.
And it takes a lot to do that. So, but it's definitely in that one room in the new place.
Okay. As I know, this was another one. It's kind of weird that the 2 items that I was drawn to were both books, but this one it was a very, I don't know, almost, I don't know, kind of nauseating sort of feeling.
Because on the page of 667, you can't see from this picture, but there's very light scorch marks on top of it. So more than likely it was being used in a manner other than directed.
So possibly maybe a ritual or something.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's scary stuff. I don't really care to mess with.
No.
Let's see. I was looking to see if there was anything else on here that we were to point out. Is there anything that you see in these pictures that you have an interesting story about?
Let's see.
You may be able to really see.
One that I believe my great grand is attached to it.
Which one is it now?
You see the German helmets and come down one?
Yes. This one?
Right there, yeah. On the left-hand side, that is actually a cookie jar. And that used to be on top of my great-grandfather's refrigerator in his house, which is now my mom and stepdad's house. And that thing used to terrify me as a kid. Because my grandma Vivi, she says there's some snacks for you on the table in there, but I had to walk past that freaking refrigerator to get to the. So I didn't eat any snacks at that house. But then when we were going through our old stuff and I found him, like, this is Charlie Paps, because he was a sheriff of Marshall County here in town. And then when I held it this time, I didn't feel the typical fear I did as a kid. I felt kind of like, Charlie's still around. So that wasn't allowed to go to my grandfather has a flea market booth. I said, it's going to stay here, Pop. That's going to stay with me. So, so nice. I actually took it back to my house. It's on top of our fridge. So.
Well, let's see. I've got a few questions here, and if you guys have any questions there in in the chat room about any of the items that we've shown, or just any questions in general, just let me know and we'll pull them up. I'm gonna actually minimize this screen for now. Okay. So, do you actually have a favorite item, Steve?
Oh, I definitely will say Annie. Yeah.
Okay.
Annie. I mean, there's a lot of ones I really am feel very blessed to have, like the cap to the electric chair, because I love history.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say the Eileen Wuornos Bible that I have now, serial killer Eileen Wuornos. I have the
Mm-hmm.
Bible she had on death row.
Oh, very
Um,
cool.
there's a lot. For some reason, I really like the embalming tables. It
Mm-hmm.
just seems like there's a lot of not negativity, nothing like that. There just feels like there's a presence. And a lot of
That's
times I think
understandable.
being able to just say, "Hey, how you doing?" and let them know that someone acknowledges them, they don't feel as lonely. I think, my opinion.
Yeah. Is there an item that you want, but and that you don't have, that you would that you're really wanting or
Well,
would
it's
like
not.
to find?
Well, it's not good to covet things, but I think there's. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of items. There's a lot of items in other museums I would like to go and appreciate. Definitely see. Um, I think I'll probably just say there's probably an item or two out there that I haven't heard of yet that'll probably eventually someday catch my eye. Yeah.
Let's see. We've got a question here. David asks, "Do they ever affect your dreams?"
There's a couple times, yeah, Dave, and both had to do with Annie. I can't tell you what date it was or what year it was, but it was a few years back, and I remember sleeping in my bed. I remember that I was asleep. Both times are very similar. I remember at one point while I'm sleeping that I became aware that I was looking over myself as I'm sleeping towards the door to my room. And slowly, I didn't hear anything, but the door opens and this younger lady walks in just a real pretty dress, from that time frame that Annie would have been alive when she was younger. And she sat on the side of my bed, and then I instantly woke up. The second time, same thing happened. She sat down, and it looked like she kind of slowly fell backwards, and then I woke up that time as well. But nothing bad. It just became aware that I was looking over myself sleeping and saw her walk into the room. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel unsafe. I didn't feel any, like, when she sat on the bed, I didn't feel that. It was just very surreal. It was,
Gotcha.
it's like,
Well,
yeah, in a
great.
way.
Yeah, great question, David.
Absolutely.
Janet asks, "Do you have a least favorite item or item you feel the worst interacting with?"
There's a few items that I don't want to say when they're in a bad mood, but I think there's a few items that if I don't see them during the day, that I'm not going to feel like I missed out on anything. And they're typically in the malevolent room that I have in the museum. One of them is, we call the Hope doll, and I have a picture of her. I don't know. I don't think I could send it to you in time.
Oh, you might be able to. Actually,
I don't know how to do that. Actually, I'm not very tech savvy.
Let's see. At the bottom of the screen, does it have the share button?
Yes.
Okay, if you click that.
Okay, I click it.
Yep, click it, and then you select what you hit the share screen, and then hit. I don't know if it's you can either do your entire screen, or like if it's on Chrome, you can you can do that.
So, okay, if I hit share screen, what's going to happen?
It's going to give you the option. Once you hit share screen, it's going to pop up the share your screen there.
Okay.
And you can either do your entire screen, the application window, and the application window you pick, like if it's like I'm on a Mac, so you would share your Finder window.
Chrome tab.
Yep.
Okay, I've done that.
And it should pull it up.
It's not. I bet I don't know. I'm gonna end up messing this up.
You can't mess it up.
All it has is my Facebook. Let me take this off.
Mm-hmm.
Get it off there.
Where is the picture? Is the picture on your computer or on your
I'd have to
Facebook?
look it up on my computer.
Okay, so if it's there, then I would hit the application tab,
Application window.
and it's going to give you choose which you want to use.
Let's see. All right, computer.
Or if you just have it on your desktop, you can share your entire screen.
She might be in here. She might just be on Instagram. I don't know. It'll take forever. Oh. Well, it's not that one. I literally just got this computer hooked back up, so I kind of forget where everything's at. Videos. You know what? I'll just bow out of that one for right now because I don't know where it's at.
Okay, well, if you want to, like I said, we'll send people to. I know you've got a lot of this stuff on your Instagram page, correct?
Yeah. And she's basically Hope's a tall doll she's probably about 3.5, 4 foot tall. Mm-hmm. And my friend Judy, who actually buys and sells antiques, had a very strange experience. Not necessarily with the doll, but where she got the doll. And she's up on Highland Avenue here in town, and she's with her brother, I think. Mm-hmm. And they're basically picking this guy's house. And he goes, well, we have some stuff down in the basement. Why don't you go and take a look at it? He says, and your brother can go outside and find the basement door, which I thought was kind of weird. Why would you bother with that? Mm-hmm. But anyway, she goes down the step. Now, she doesn't know if the old man closed the door and locked it or if the door just closed and locked by itself.
Okay.
So that really creeped her out. And meanwhile, the guy her brother that went outside couldn't find the door to the place, even though it was pretty easy to see, but he said he couldn't find it. So she got weirded out, started screaming, help me, get me out of here, get me out of here, get me out of here. Because she got really uncomfortable when she saw the doll in the far corner of the basement. And
yeah, that's odd.
Yeah, I'm like, they make horror movies that start out like this. And
right.
So she got a hold of me. It was a Sunday, and I get this call. Normally she texts me. She says, Steve, I have something for you. Can I give it to you? I said, well, how about tomorrow? I'm in the middle of a football game with my pap. Things are getting kind of heated. And she says, no, I don't want this thing in my house. I don't want it in my truck. I'm like, okay. Now you have my attention even more. So she pulls up out front, and she hands me this heap of black garbage bag. This thing's wrapped up in a dirty black garbage bag. And before I even looked at what would be the doll, I just felt child abuse. That's the first thing I picked up on. And the doll's actually moved 3 different times since we've had it at the old location. So she's nasty, and she just definitely has a bad vibe to her. And it's weird when you sit and look at her. I put a chair directly in front of her in the malevolent room. So when you sit, you have to look at her. And
nice.
She looks right through you. It's really, really intimidating. We have that. Another item that we just put in there was from one of our 3-part miniseries on Paranormal Quest, The Cursed Cabin. Mm-hmm. With permission, I was able to go get the big mirror, which I believe is a portal.
Okay.
So that's in the museum as well.
And that's a great episode, or a great 3-part.
That was a crazy one. That was a crazy one.
Interesting location for sure.
Well, the first time was so creepy because you ever watch the remake of Evil Dead?
Yes.
Okay, so it's obviously not raining blood, but it's raining so hard you can't hear anything around you except just what's going on in this cabin that's 300 to 400 yards away from the nearest house. No power at all. So we're all in this little cabin, investigating it, and it was interesting.
Yeah, people definitely need to go on and check that one out. Thank you, Janet, for your question. We've
Yes.
got a couple comments going on over here about the Bible. Chris says that the Bible is stuck in his head. How does a book of scripture become tainted with evil? I just can't understand that.
Because the word of scripture, the word of God as a Christian lives within you. The Bible is the Bible, of course, it's there to teach, but it's still an inanimate object. That's why personally, I don't endorse, I don't use the holy water, because
Mhm.
holy water should not replace scripture.
Right.
Without scripture, holy water would be nothing. So why go to the second lieutenant? Then you should go to a higher officer that way. So again, that's not being cocky. I mean, that's what I went to school, went to college for it, and that's
Mhm.
one thing we were taught. You don't replace something that's going to work.
Mhm.
It may not be an answer that you fully grasp or a result that you want for the time, but it's something that you need for the time that point. But yeah,
And that makes perfect sense. Thank you, Chris.
yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever gotten rid of any of your items that was just kind of that you felt were so malevolent? Or, I mean, you have a very strong faith and very strong belief. Um, it doesn't really seem like that it affects you in that way. But have you ever been so affected that you've gotten rid of something or attempted to get rid of something?
No, no. And I answer questions like that a lot. I try to sound. I'm just an. I try to be a very positive person. So if I come across as arrogant, it's not meant to be such.
No, I did.
But
I don't get that at all.
we as human beings, regardless of a person's religion, creed, or whatever, we're meant to be stronger than I think we allow ourselves to be sometimes. We're not meant to allow an object just by looking at it to control our lives. You know what I mean? As we're meant to be a lot more in many ways that way. So there's not an item that I've had, nor an item that I think if I have the opportunity to have in my lifetime, that I think that's going to bother me to the point where I would turn it away or get rid of it.
And that makes perfect sense. So when investigating, do you prefer haunted locations or haunted items to investigate?
Both.
A
I
haunted
mean,
location with a haunted item,
exactly. I mean, in a lot of ways, you have that. It's hard not to go to an antique shop and not come across something that's got a little bit of energy attached to it. It may not be like an intelligent type of haunting, but yeah, I feel grateful and blessed to get to do either one or both.
Very nice. Is there an item in there that is probably the most popular with investigators or folks that have come in as far as being very active, or ones that the most people seem to be drawn to?
Probably the Cap and Annie.
Mm-hmm.
Last week we had a real nice couple come in, and they were just touring around the area, and he stopped to pay the admission, and he and I were chit chatting about stuff, and his wife or girlfriend, I'm not sure, walked directly over to Annie's case, and she literally just started bawling her eyes out. Like, I've never seen that happen with Annie, especially. I mean, I had to get her a box of Kleenex. I mean, she was just big alligator tears, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" I said, "You okay?" She said, "Sometimes it just happens." She's just so sad. She's just She said someone she trusted really betrayed her at one point in her life.
Wow.
Which makes sense because, and I didn't tell her this, that she, I'm not sure why, but I do know that the one person she was married to, it ended in divorce. And he died because he fell and hit his head, and he died of a cerebral hemorrhage.
Mm.
And also, one of her two daughters had committed suicide.
Wow.
On the back of her picture, eventually I got the courage to do so because I was worried about the picture breaking, crumbling because it was so old. It had her first, middle, maiden last name, marriage last name, her birth date, her two parents' names, and her two daughters' names. And it also had the date the picture was taken, which was June 15th of 1902. So we were able to find out a lot about her, and it took about a year and a half to find out where she was buried because the Ancestry originally had the year of her death wrong.
Mm.
So I had to go through Columbus. They sent me to, I think, Tuscarawas County, which is where East Liverpool's in. That's where she died in. And then they sent me to her hospital that she passed in. And then
Wow.
And then that was all in one day. And then when I got to the hospital phone line, they go, well, they're all out on lunch. I'm like, I'll wait another 40 minutes. But then I started thinking, in some of my documentation, I had seen that her funeral was at Dawson Funeral Home in East Liverpool. So I'm like, while I'm waiting, I'll call Dawson. And they told me, well, they had the information I needed. They said she was in Brook Cemetery in Wellsburg, which is an hour north of Moundsville here. So next time you're up, we'll go up and check and visit her if you want to go up.
I would love that. I would love that.
And they said, well, you're going to have to call this number. So I did. And this old gentleman answered. I'm like, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'm trying to locate this grave. He was like, well, hold on. Let me go through our books. I'm like, you don't have a computer. So I said, well, I'll have my phone on me. And he's okay. So I just went ahead and drove up with two of my friends. We were just driving in through the gates of the cemetery when he called me back to tell me where she was at. So it worked out good. It worked out good.
It's amazing the research that you put into that and the information you were able to find. That's really cool.
It's very rewarding. If anyone here is listening, you get a chance to do something like that, just do it, because I don't know about you, but for me, this was probably one of the few things in my life I was able to get to see through to fruition. And I remember going through the cemetery. My buddy Will was at one end, my friend Mike was at the other, and I remember just telling myself, please, God, just let me be the first person of us three to find her. That's all I'm asking for. And literally, God is my witness, I took about a 20-yard walk, and I saw the name Ledger. I'm like, Ledger? Well, that was her husband's last name. And turns out she was buried in her ex-husband's family plot.
Oh, wow.
Which kind of ticked me off because I knew where he was buried, but I thought not to look there because, like, who gets buried with their ex?
Right.
So
that sounds so unfortunate.
It would have shaved a year off of looking for her. I know that. So,
yeah.
Good.
Just by chance, go and look there. I mean, I would have never thought.
Yeah, me either. I was just like, really? Yeah. That would happen to me.
Well, any cool future projects or anything you're working on right now with PQ or the archive, or with I know you put a book out. Was it last year?
About last year, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the poems were based off of impressions I got off some of my items at certain places, different things like that. I'm working on my second one now. Paranormal Quest wise, we have a new episode coming out, I believe, this Saturday at 8. It'll be at the old hospital on College Hill down in Williamson, West Virginia. Place was amazing. It was an amazing location. You get a chance to look it up, go there, support them. They're just within a month of just doing tours there ever. So we were one of the first few groups to go and investigate, and I highly recommend it. It was a great location.
Very nice. And folks can watch that on the Paranormal Quest Facebook page and YouTube channel?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, definitely I want to post the links where folks can see that. So you've got a new episode coming out, books. A new book coming out. Let's see, working on any cool artwork?
Yeah, I got at least 6 or 7 commissions, along with working on my book. I started a biblical studies degrees program at Omega Bible Student Seminary. So I have that going on. Got the museum going on, and keeping an eye on my grandparents. I don't seem to slow down at all.
It doesn't sound like it. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're really busy, and I
It was
appreciate
an honor
you
being
taking
on
the
here
time.
with you. I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know, I just want to thank everyone for all of the questions and comments. You guys are the best. Dr. Sumner, Class
Thank you,
Act
Chris.
C.
Love you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Chris. And again, you know, thank you all for tuning in. We're going to go ahead because I know Steve is busy, and so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that? Go ahead and plug all your stuff here.
Facebook's the best way. Steve Hummel, Archive of the Afterlife, the National Museum of the Paranormal is on Facebook. Definitely go to YouTube. Check out Paranormal Quest. Make sure you smash the subscribe button and hit the bell notification. That way you get to check out episodes coming out. I'm forgetting something. I went completely brain dead.
The archive.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Facebook. Oh, my brain just went done. But
yeah, definitely check out the archive. I think they have a Facebook page as well as Instagram page and website. They have a website?
Yeah, go to www.archive-afterlife.weebly.com.
Okay. And
between the website, or you actually go to the Facebook page, you go to the website.
Okay. And like I said, I'll put the link in to that. And so any of you guys, if you are up in that area or if you're close to that area, it's worth the drive to go over. Check it out in their new location.
Yeah, Chris, you're up in the area. Look me up. We'll sit and we'll get some coffee or whatever and chit chat.
Well, thank you all again so much. Just a couple things coming up. I'm working on, I don't know yet, but I may be on a podcast tomorrow night. I'm working out the details on that. So we will definitely post that. Also, this Saturday night, I'll be posting details. I'm going to be speaking at the Alfred State College ParaCon that they're having. I'm actually going to be talking about something a little bit different than I talk about on other podcasts. I'm going to be talking about urbex and how I a lot of people don't really know that's kind of how I started with the paranormal. So I'm going to be speaking to Alfred State College on that. I believe that's going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and it's going to be broadcast live. They've got a bunch of great speakers. I think their ParaCon runs from 3 p.m. through 10 p.m., but I'll post all of that information on the page. And then also May is going to be kind of busy with events. We're going to have more information on those, but I've spent the day hanging up flyers. We've got this information on there, doing a scholarship ride in honor of my dad. You all have heard me talk about this. This is going to be the first annual Harold Young Memorial Scholarship Dart Run. And it's not just for motorcycles. All vehicles are welcome. We just published the map. All money and proceeds that are raised from this goes to create a scholarship for students at Scott High School who are interested in the science field. And as we know, that's a very broad field. My dad was a chemistry and physics teacher at the college at the high school for 39 years. So science and that whole entire field and the opportunity to get an education is something that was extremely important to him. So check that out. That's going to be on May 15th. And then on May 22nd, the very next week, is the third annual R.M. Brooks bike event. We've done a couple haunted rides for the past 2 years. We're still working out the details on the haunted ride that will be before. We're going to decide if that's going to happen or not, but we will definitely be doing a meet and greet at the R.M. Brooks general store. I believe that's from 5 until whenever everybody leaves. So if you've not been to the R.M. Brooks General Store, got to check that out. They've got some very cool things going on, plus the Ghost Biker meet and greet that night. So we've got a ton of things that's coming up in the next little bit, as well as a couple different live streams that's going to be taking place next week. Dr. Sumner and I are working on something that we're going to put out next week as a live stream. So stay tuned for more information on that. It's busy week, busy time trying to get all of this information out there. And again, thank you, Chris, Dr. Sumner, for your kind words about my dad. So other than that, unless anyone has anything else, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up and, wish everyone a great week. And until possibly tomorrow night, but definitely on Saturday night, we'll see you again then. So thanks a lot, everyone.